You ever sit down, bro? Like when you sit, you're just like,
Yeah, it's like an old man taking a piss at the
yeah.
urinal.
It's like, am I getting old? Like,
I don't know. Until you start making that sound at the urinal, I think you're good.
Okay, word.
Yeah. We rocking?
Yeah.
Love that.
It's always a good hang.
It's always a good hang.
What's popping, bro?
How you doing?
It's good.
Guess you guys aren't ready for that, but your kids are gonna love it.
Feels good to be back in the chairs, baby.
Yeah.
Shit.
Dude, God, it's been an epic since we've been here.
I know,
That's
I know.
EPOCH. As you can see today, we are rocking for the very first time our Good Hang mugs, courtesy of Rachel Castle.
Yeah.
Shout out to Rachel Castle. We'll throw her handle up here on the screen, but
Very thoughtful. Very
yeah,
thoughtful.
she had these made for us, and we are drinking out of them now. Now you
Yeah, these are sweet, man. That was
Yep.
really nice of her.
Yeah,
Good hang.
great hang today.
We're going all over the place today.
Yeah, and all over the when today.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense. You want to please save me? I'm just gonna talk myself into a hole right now.
I'm wiping the rust off the chain. Dude, we're talking about time today, man.
Mhm.
What the fuck is that?
I don't know.
Dude, when you really think about it,
Yeah.
it is hard to wrap your head around.
I have no idea. I mean, we've like put numbers to it and we've like done the best we could to make sense of it, but it's such a bizarre concept.
It is hard to grasp when you really think about it. Like, I
Right.
genuinely, I mean, I believe the human mind is pretty impressive, but
Mhm.
there are some things that I think we're not really equipped to understand.
Yeah.
And I think, like, you know, like the vastness of the universe, like when I try to really think about that crap, but also like, I mean, there's a few ways to look at time, I guess. Like
Sure.
the way we understand it is linear, would
Yeah.
you say? You know,
That's
there's-
kind of how we apply it. you know?
right. I mean, it's just kind of moving in an arrow, kind of. Like
Right.
There's a past
We're,
and
we're moving forward through time.
Right. And you know, I think it's a little more complex than that. I was watching like a YouTube video. I was like, what the fuck is time, bro? Like, I was thinking about this episode. And it was going into like the space time and like how fast you move. Can like an alien whipping in space at the speed of light or something is like can like talk to people from the future or some crap.
Right.
Like that. It's like what?
Yeah, I was looking into some stuff about this too, and some people refer to time as a dimension.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? We have 3 dimensions in our physical world, and they refer to time as one of the higher dimensions, and I find that really interesting. Like we were just talking about, you know, we view time as a very linear concept, which is, you know, almost you could say we're viewing time in like, you know, kind of just 1 or 2 dimensions, like a flat surface, right? But
Right.
like, what if it exists in 3 dimensions? What if there's length, width, depth to it, you know? And it's not necessarily moving forward through time, but moving further into time. You know what I mean? Or having experienced more time. That doesn't necessarily, we don't need to say we're moving forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that imply, I don't know. It's so bizarre, and it's hard to, as you can tell by my stuttering right now, it's just hard to put a lot of this into words. And I've always thought about,
Do you get frustrated when things don't come to you quickly?
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
like when I was sitting in school, like, and my buddies were picking up on the calculus shit faster than I was, I would get pissed off.
Really?
Yeah.
You're like, what don't I see?
Oh, it's like,
Yeah.
why
Well, that
is
was
this
like
not
when
coming to me?
we were playing Egyptian Rat Screw the other night,
I'm not a fan.
and someone will put it, you know, 2 cards down, and someone would slap before me. I'm like, I can't fathom that I wasn't the
Someone-
first person to slap.
Right,
I'm
like,
like,
they
I swear.
process that faster than me. Am I losing
Yeah.
it? Am I slipping?
What? Yeah. That's insane, dude. Something I think about a lot is the idea of a photograph, right? And how does a photograph it captures one moment in time, but like, how do you quantify one moment, right? So like, if you took a second, like that length of time, and you chopped it in half, you'd have a half a second, and then you chop that in half, you have a quarter of a second. Theoretically, you could keep chopping that in half and never really get down to a single moment. right? Because you could just keep zooming in and there's still space there.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like, so just the fact that what is the, I guess it probably has to do with the shutter speed, but like what is the length of time in a photograph? Is it just one moment, or is it like,
I mean,
you know,
when you really think about it like that, I don't fucking know, man. Like, and this is kind of off topic, but speaking of, like, you kind of mentioned like the dimensions thing in time.
Sure.
Like, I've seen pictures where like like there's a ghost. Like, I can kind of see a fucking ghost, I think.
yeah.
And it's like my human eyeball couldn't detect that, but I don't
Why
know.
can a camera?
Maybe
that
it's
is-
just, I don't. It's different than I mean, I guess it's kind of based on the human eye, like the concept. I don't.
Yeah,
Fucking
but it
know,
is a
man. I don't
different
know.
machine, you know?
You're right.
It's
yeah,
weird, man.
Yeah.
It's weird. The idea of photographs is very bizarre once you think about it. You know, it's like when you say a word too many times and it loses its meaning. I was thinking about that with the word ankle the other day. I'm like, ankle is such a fucking weird word, man.
Ankle. Yeah.
Ankle. Where does it hurt? It hurts on my ankle. What is that?
When you say a word a bunch of times, it's like, this is a fucking weird word.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
You can't think about these things too much, or you start to spin out.
yeah,
bro.
because then you
Like,
start to notice that your tongue is taking up space in your mouth, and then you're like, I need to disappear right now.
dude. Like, I think about this crap a lot, real quick. Like the internet and like how am I how like someone can FaceTime me from China and see my face?
In
What the
real
fuck is
time.
going on? What's happening?
Right.
I get it. Like little pieces of data are like
but
sent.
like, what is
Where's
going
that,
on?
Like, what do you mean sent? How's the data going? Like, what? It's flying through the sky? Like, I don't understand. Pisses me off, dude. Like, it's like, what the fuck's going on?
It pisses me off that I don't understand your data transfer.
Ignorance is bliss.
That
dude.
is so funny. Just get pissed off when you're on FaceTime with your international friends.
Wow. Ooh.
Yeah, it's
You
pretty
fucking
amazing that we've come this far to understand a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, man. It is.
It's pretty
It is,
crazy.
it is,
But back to the topic at hand.
yeah. I want
Time.
to talk about time real quick as from a philosophical perspective.
Sure.
Because I think some people debate, like, is it real?
Right.
And I think, I mean, obviously we know it as like a human construct to organize events and experiences, but like, is it a fundle? Is it a fundle? Fundle. Fundle.
I like that.
Is it a fundamental aspect of the universe, bro? Or, like, forget human perception.
You're chopped up right now.
We're
Man.
goofing here.
Oh my goodness.
But like, you know, we talked about it as a linear past, present, and future.
I'm so sorry. I can't stop laughing about Fundle.
This episode's gonna be called The Fundle.
Lock it.
Like, forget.
For those of you only listening, you're just sitting there
I'm
with his
sorry.
tongue out
Yeah,
right
you
now.
gotta catch the video, like, man, we're gone. But I think like linear, we understand it as a continuous sequence. Like, we enforce this so heavily, like with our dates and
Right.
2025. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
We put like we stamp it.
Right. But I think like there's some school of thoughts, like Buddhist and Hindu, like schools of thoughts where like it's cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's a cycle, kind of like reincarnation, seasons. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then obviously from a physical perspective, like physics, like Newton's, like classical mechanics,
Sure.
like time is absolute, meaning it ticks forward at a constant rate, independent of the observer. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like in all of the universe, whatever. And then there's Einstein's theory of relativity, which just says time is not absolute. You know what I mean? So like it can be stretched or contracted depending on factors like gravity and velocity.
That's
So
insane.
like time dilation. I know you're a fan of Interstellar.
Mm-hmm.
Like it passing more slowly for objects moving at a high velocity or close, like really intense gravity will dilate time. So like I think what's the concept? They're on.
Yeah,
They're near, like,
they're
a
on
black
planet
hole.
that's near a black hole, and since
Right.
the gravity is so,
So
strong,
strong.
the time on that planet passes way faster than the dude who's up in the spaceship. You know, they're down there for maybe 45 minutes and then they go back up and the dude in the ship is waiting for them for 10 years.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. He's like, I thought you'd never come back.
Oh my God.
It's crazy. His beard's all gray.
Wow.
It's wild, man.
That's
wild.
crazy, bro.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to bring up like time from a psychological perspective. Like, I know everyone can relate to this. Like when you're doing something really fun or enjoyable, it seems to pass faster.
Right.
But when you're bored or, you know, you're at work or at a dead end job, it's crawling.
Yeah.
It's just funny, man. And, you know, I think let's talk about memory real quick.
Yeah.
And, you know, how we experience the past, the present, and the future. Like in the past, we're recollecting.
Right.
And obviously the present, where it's felt through experience. And then the future, you can kind of feel in your imagination, kind of. Like it's kind of interesting. It's wild.
It's crazy, man. I mean, what's an interesting thing to think about too is like, where is there physical evidence of time? Like, what would the number one evidence of time be?
Like
For me, it's aging.
Right.
Right. It's like things change over time. And it's like, well, maybe not though, because technically that's just like the decaying and failing of our bodies.
Well, say you were in a bad accident and you have amnesia. And now maybe or whatever, you don't remember the last, 5 years.
Yeah.
And it just,
it's so
like,
weird,
it's
man.
just like your sense of time is gone because you have no memory. So like your
Right.
memory and time are from like a psychological perspective are so.
Yeah. How there can be gaps in your memory and that can affect how long you feel like you've been alive.
Right.
know?
Right.
It's like, you know, we're like around 30 years old, you think back and it's like, how much can you really remember from your life without sitting down and, you know, really taking the time to recall it? There's a lot of blank spots.
Right.
For me, at least. I mean, and it's like, man, what have I done? Oh yeah, you know what I mean. It's bizarre.
It's funny, like what your brain decides to keep and
Yeah.
what it doesn't.
For better or worse.
Right. Like
Yeah.
I don't. Do you remember? What's your earliest memory?
My earliest memory is Christmas Day when I must have been like 2 or 3. Like
That's pretty deep.
Super young. And I remember I got this box of different kinds of hats. There was like a cowboy hat in it and a fireman helmet, and like it was in this yellow box, and on the outside was pictures of all the different hats that were in there. And that's like my earliest
And
memory.
like you do remember that.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
confirmed by my parents. That happened.
That happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
What about you?
Yeah, man. I have this like weird memory. I don't remember much. I think I was 4. Might have been my like really concrete memory. And I was sitting on a table in my basement of my house, and I was watching SpongeBob, and like that's
Weird.
really it. Like I remember
Interesting.
the way I was sitting. I was like on my knees on this
Mhm.
shitty table
Yeah.
in the basement, and I'm just like, it was a dark room, and I'm just like watching SpongeBob.
You were on the table?
I was just like, I don't know why I was sitting. I was on my knees on the table. I was
Man.
just chilling. I don't know. Yeah.
Too old for that now. My knees would shatter
Yeah,
if I
same.
did that.
Same.
That's crazy, man. It is
Wow.
weird. You know, you cling on to that. But if I asked you, answer me this in under 5 seconds. What did you have for breakfast yesterday?
I had a smoothie, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got that
I mean,
pretty
that's
quick.
easy because I do that every day.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
kinda,
But
yeah.
as an example,
Yeah,
you know
oh,
what I
dude,
mean?
yeah.
It's not.
Right.
You asked me what my earliest memory is. Immediately, I know it. You know, it's bizarre.
Yeah, it's
I think
bizarre.
memories are almost a form of time travel.
Yeah,
if
for
you
sure.
think about it,
for
like-
sure.
You know, especially.
There's a term in psychology. It's called chronesthesia. It's describes mentally traveling through time. There's like a term
Interesting.
for it. Yeah. Physical time travel, totally different ball game. We're gonna dive into that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Time
the science of it is pretty wild.
Yeah, and it's so much of it is like theoretical, and so much of our understanding is just based on what we can observe, right?
Mhm.
Think about how much there is to the universe and time, especially that we just can't observe because we don't have the senses to do so.
Right.
You know what I mean? We have 5, maybe 6 senses. It's like, dude, what if we had 100 senses? You know what I mean? It's like seeing a color you've never seen, you know? Imagine that.
No, I
Imagine
can't.
seeing a new color and you're like,
I would be able. I can't imagine it because like I know all the
you've
colors.
you've seen every color.
Right. That's a shade of green or whatever. But,
Right.
you know, or
Because the
black,
visible light spectrum is
Yeah.
you know, pretty narrow.
I mean, theoretically, like we were talking about relativity and stuff, like black holes and wormholes, like in theory, could allow for time travel. Obviously, it's theoretical, but
sure.
it's you know, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's like the wormhole theory of like, you know, there's point A and point B, and a wormhole basically folds the map on top of itself, and you can just travel right there.
Bang.
So weird, man.
So wild.
So weird.
So fucking wild.
But yeah, let's get into some time travel stuff.
Yeah.
man. This isn't such an interesting. That's why I wore this vest.
Oh yeah.
I'm rocking my Marty McFly today.
Oh
from Back to the
shit! Look
Future.
at you, bro. Look
Ah,
at
yeah.
you.
Yeah, crazy. Fundy.
So let's assume time is linear. Obviously,
Okay.
you got a time machine. You know, here we are in the present. Let's talk about the past first.
Okay.
You know, so we can bounce back and forth, but you know, first off, like I'm doing dope shit. I'm not going back to like a few years ago where it's like, oh, I'm gonna tell her how I really feel. You know what I mean?
Fuck her.
Like I'm going to 6 spots, and I thought about this for a little bit. I'm balling out, so we're like, I laid this out last night. I was thinking about this, and I laid it out kind of chronologically,
Okay.
date wise almost. So like I'll talk about like where the farthest back first. But,
Okay.
yeah. Why don't you start us off though?
Okay. So are you asking, you know, if I could go back in time, like when would I go to?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Or whatever, man.
That's a tough question. I mean, because things, you know, in terms of like the human condition and ability to stay alive, I mean, it's definitely like kind of the best today.
Oh, for sure.
At least for a lot of
For
people.
sure.
Like, you know, you go back to like when we did the episode on like the horrible jobs, you know, and it's like we found ways to like make those jobs a little less nasty. So it's like,
right.
what time would I go back to? Shit. I mean, it's such a good question. I remember thinking about this. I was like, you know, my first instinct was medieval times. Just 'cause I'm so curious. It sounds like such a really rich part of history, but then I was like, man, I don't know. Shit was ugly back then. But,
Yeah, I mean, like I think there's no doubt that we live like the present is the best time to
Right.
be alive. Like some people, I think every person has had this thought in history. It's like we live in the craziest time.
Yeah.
And like
100%.
it's
It just
fair
keeps
to,
getting crazier.
It's fair to have that thought. I'm sure
Right.
people a couple thousand years ago were like, "This is the craziest fucking time to be alive."
Yeah, they invented the abacus.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like
this shit is crazy.
You know, some people might be like, "Oh, we live in such a shitty time." I disagree. Like,
Well, I
you
mean,
know,
it's relative.
it's
You
so
know, like
relative.
each time has its problems, and
Yeah.
you know, we can acknowledge that we probably live in the best time to be a human in general in history, but also acknowledge, you know, the problems that we've created for ourselves and have to work on because of a lot of our advancements. You know,
Right.
it's like, had we never invented the smartphone, we would never have the problems associated with it. But
Right.
it's like, you know, with every invention usually comes pros and cons. So,
right.
but in terms of survival, it's probably the best time to be a human
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
You know.
Agreed.
I don't know.
I'll tell you where I'm going. I'm checking out the dinosaurs, bro.
Oh,
There's a
see, I
bear
thought
shit in the
about that.
woods. Yeah. What's cooking before that though? Like I don't really know.
Pre-dinosaurs?
Yeah, like what am I gonna go check out a couple lizards or something? Like I'm all set.
I mean, I don't remember Earth science that well.
Yeah, but I would definitely hit up.
well, hold
I mean,
up.
dude.
something just happened to that camera.
Oh, you gotta be shitting me.
Oh my god, what did you say? Fundy? Fundle? Dude, Fundle was hilarious.
Dinosaurs were on the planet for 165 million years.
That's insane.
That's hard to wrap the mind around, bro. Because like I think our earliest ancestors as human beings, like when we split off from like the gorillas and stuff, like that was like 5 to 7 million year range.
Okay.
And like us, like our like Homo sapiens, couple 100,000
Yeah.
years. So when you think about how long, like we're talking about trying to wrap our head around time.
Right.
165 million years those things were running around.
That's insane, man.
King of the earth.
I wonder. I'm so curious about the progression of evolution throughout the species over that amount of time.
Must
You know
have
what I
been a
mean?
ton.
It's like humans evolved from apes, but like, that was, like you said, that was less time than the dinosaurs were even on the earth.
Right,
it's like,
right.
Jesus, man,
by,
that's
by a
crazy.
lot.
Yeah, that's a really long time.
But I think I would, I'd like to ride on the back of a pterodactyl if
Oh my
that's
God.
possible. Or, I don't know how
That'd
big
be sick.
those things were, but
They're probably pretty big.
or a brachiosaurus, like the long neck.
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that'd be sick. And obviously, when I'm talking about this stuff, like
You're safe.
you kind of have free reign.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
more
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, that's so interesting, man.
yeah.
I heard something that there was way more oxygen in Earth's atmosphere back then.
I'm sure.
So a lot of things like bugs and all that stuff that we know to be pretty small today grew to be huge
Ooh.
back in the day. Like, centipedes that are like, 10
What
feet long.
the
I could be
hell?
wrong, but
yeah, you might be right. I mean,
thought-
imagine how lush the Earth was.
right.
You know what I
No
mean?
fossil fuels.
Yeah. Just
This is before the fossil fuels were even fuels.
Right.
They were just
right.
fossils.
Imagine laying under the stars at night and like no light pollution.
Early Earth,
know?
man. That's a good answer. I'm gonna add to that as well.
Yeah.
Like I would go back to early Earth.
Yeah.
Just get to see how it was different, especially like you said, like landscape
Right.
and greenery and just vegetation. Like what was different? What's extinct now that wasn't back then? A
Right.
whole mess of stuff.
Oh, almost everything probably.
Right. So to be able to see that stuff in person would be insane.
Yeah, and like there was probably like Pangea.
Oh,
like
shout
just-
out Pangea, dude. I love Pangea.
it's probably so wild.
Yeah.
Um,
That's insane,
yeah.
man.
What do you think they sounded like?
What?
Like, was it more of a roar or was it like a squeal?
Dinosaurs?
Mm.
I'm sure different dinosaurs had different sounds, but I think in general, because of their size, it was probably like a loud roar
Really?
or just a loud, you know what I mean? It's like, I can't even imagine a T-Rex getting right up in your face and just screaming as loud as it could.
God, bro.
Yeah, you'd be looking like, your hair sticking straight down.
That'd be nuts.
Yeah, that's insane. That's a good answer. Going
Yeah,
back to the dinosaur
that was
times, I
kind of
like
up
that.
first for me.
I like it. What's up?
Definitely want to see that.
Okay, what's second?
For me,
Yeah.
I thought this was mad interesting. I was like early human ancestors, like before they discovered fire. I'd
Ooh.
fuck around a little bit.
Oh yeah.
I'd be like, fellas,
Check this out.
I think I'd pull up to some cavemen wearing like jeans and a flannel, and I'd be like, "What's good?"
What?
And
They'd stone you.
you're a
immediately.
caveman, bro. All right, and
Okay.
I walk into the cave wearing this, and I'm just like, "What's up?" What's the first thing coming out of your mouth?
I'd be like, "That's a fire fit. Where'd you get it?" Fucking second rock past the river. What's the first thing out of my mouth? Probably a loud moan and a roar, and then I'm probably trying to kill you.
Right, that's what I would think.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
something like that.
I mean, you wouldn't even understand what they were wearing. Dude, they used to think people were, they would burn people at the stake for like, God knows what back in the day. Imagine if you showed up to caveman with a flannel on.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
would-
But if you took it off and put it on them and like, talk about maybe a paradox you could jump into, like,
That would blow their mind.
yeah. What if it
Yeah.
was like, what if the first invention was just a great flannel? That's crazy. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, I think I would light a fire in front of them.
Mm,
I'd be like, "Yo, check this out."
mm,
Chef up a couple woolly mammoth tenderloins.
mm. Hey, keep it rare. Keep it moving. That's crazy, dude. I mean, do you think that when fire was discovered, the exact time that was discovered, do you think that's really important to the history of the human existence?
Yeah, I mean, there was like, man, there were like millions of years between the earliest human ancestors, like probably like an Australopithecus, which we've found remains of, and like the Homo erectus, who were the first to start utilizing fire and
Sure.
working with fire. So I mean, I can't imagine like what like it'd be like. Have you seen the Jungle Book? Like Shere Khan, he's like shitting himself when he's getting fire near him. Like I imagine they'd be afraid a little bit. And
Yeah.
like
You try to touch it and you realize it hurts.
yeah,
It's like
the classic like ow. Like okay.
yeah, maybe like a good answer would be going back in time to moments where massive discoveries like that were found, like fire, the wheel.
Yeah,
the
I think
first
that'd be
time that
really
they figured
cool.
out like the wheel.
Yeah.
First time electricity was used and discovered. Like, dude, that's
fire. I think is one of the biggest discoveries in human history. I would think.
well, yeah, because it's such a tool for survival. I mean, we still use fire for survival.
Yep.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Safety of cooking.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah.
I'll tell you another time I would go back to, man, is like when like rock music was first starting to get cool. You know what I mean? When it went from, you know, kind of soft and all of a sudden bands are like cranking up amps and shit's getting distorted. And I can't even like it almost feels like the early discoveries in you know plugged in music like rock and all the stuff we know today. It feels like the discovery curve was so much steeper.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of flattened out as we've, you know, made more discoveries. Because now we find ourselves, you know, reaching back towards the 70s, 80s, and 90s for inspiration, right?
Right.
Whereas, you know, before those times, they were just purely discovering stuff, man. So not to say that every generation hasn't reached earlier for inspiration, but it's like, it's just so that had to be a crazy time. Like watching the Beatles come to, you know, the United States for the first time, like the British invasion.
Dude,
all that
I would
stuff.
love to like just go back and like check out all like my favorite bands and stuff like in their prime. Like I think that'd be so cool.
Yeah, to have been able to kind of see those just earth-shatteringly huge bands when they were on fire in their careers, man, that'd be so cool.
That'd be so sick.
That'd be so cool. Where else are you going back to?
I would check out. I'd head to ancient Egypt,
Mm.
and I would watch the building of the pyramids, because I think there's a lot of debate on, you know, were they built by humans or did aliens come and build those? So I would post up and
in a lawn chair with some binoculars.
and check it
what
out.
are they doing right there? That's crazy.
You know, I take a cruise down the Nile. You know, apparently the Egyptians partied, dude.
Really?
Bro. I mean, they did psychedelics. They got hammered. Like, they hashed tobacco. Like, there was cocaine found in mummies. There was traces of cocaine. I was reading this.
Are you serious?
There was traces of cocaine found in mummies, bro. I mean, these guys raged, dude.
Damn.
You know, and I'm looking at some pictures of hieroglyphics, and I'm like, yeah, these guys got fucked up. I mean,
that was their version of a disposable camera. The blackout disposable.
These guys were smoking symbiotes. Smoking straight dung beetle.
Oh my god! I got so high I stole the Constitution.
Do you think they had dealers?
Mm-hmm.
You think so?
I think the early version of a dealer was probably the person who grew it. All that
right.
stuff, you know.
Meet me under the Sphinx's left ass cheek at sundown.
Bring your best goat. That's crazy. That's insane. Okay, here's a question I've been wanting to ask about this topic. If you're going back in time, what modern inventions are you bringing back with you?
Man, that's tough. Like,
Yeah.
because like, do you want to be like, who do you want to be? Like, do you want to be like worshipped like as like a future traveler, or do you want to just like?
Do you think they would believe that you were a future traveler, or would they just kill you?
I mean, what could you realistically bring back and it's gonna like work? Can't bring my iPhone back and be like, yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm bringing back. Four items. First of all, I'm bringing a jewel, and I'm like, look at this, all this stuff you do. Look at this. This fits right in your pocket.
Yeah, that'd be tight.
It's incredible. I'm bringing a Ziploc bag, and I'm gonna be like, look, you can put stuff in here, and you can see inside of it, so you know exactly what's in there. I'm going back in Heelys, dude, and I'm riding down the side of the pyramid in Heelys, while the entire civilization is like, yeah, on the side. And I would also probably bring back a pair of sunglasses.
That's a great idea.
Oh, or maybe eclipse sunglasses.
Eclipse sunglasses?
Yeah, you know how you can't stare directly at the eclipse? I'd be like, hey, King Tut, check this shit out. Put him on his head, and he's like, you know?
That's wild.
Yeah, that's my 4 inventions that I'm bringing back.
Ziploc bag. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Maybe like a gun. That
Mm.
changes the game.
I feel like the time at which gunpowder was invented though is really crucial to history. So you'd probably be causing some butterfly effect stuff.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of things. Yeah. I mean, that's really interesting. The butterfly effect.
I mean, do you think you could even bring back any inventions without causing some sort of butterfly effect? Because they would be so.
They'd see it and be like, how? And that
Exactly.
would be their mission.
Yeah, right.
And
So
that would change the whole course of history. If someone figured out how to, a gun, like, thousands of years ago.
Like, imagine if someone, a future traveler, came back right now and brought like a portal gun with them, right? Just somewhere you go, shoot, I'm gonna go somewhere on Earth.
Yeah,
that would be the biggest news on Earth.
It's the bootstrap paradox, right? I think like when say you bring something back, like a portal gun or whatever.
Sure.
It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like it comes back, so like now we dive into like, oh, we got to figure out how to make that, and then we make it, and like that's the guy, like that. That's how that guy is.
Right. Yeah. And then you're like, well, which one came first? You know what I mean?
Right.
But like, I was talking like someone comes back with a portal gun, and to them that might just be something you can buy at a gas station.
Right.
You know what I mean? But to us, it's like the biggest thing. But the best example of the bootstrap paradox is like the chicken or the egg argument. Like which one came first? You kind of need one to make the other, but it's like,
right.
You know, but these paradoxes are weird, man. Because I remember when I was first starting to get really intrigued by like space and stuff like that. The idea of a paradox really confused me, and it was really hard for me to wrap my head around it. But
that's the whole idea,
right? Well, looking into it a little bit now, I mean, they make sense, but they're so cool, man. Especially like the grandfather paradox is another classic one, right? If you travel back in time and kill your grandfather, hopefully you wouldn't do that. But
right.
if you did, your parent is never born, hence you're never born. So how would you have gone back and killed them? Right?
Unless you become your grandfather.
Interesting. Like what if future you comes back or your grandson in the future comes back in time and kills you and then becomes you? Oh, that's weird, man.
Yeah.
Good Hang, the spinoff.
How about Gladiator Rome?
Ooh.
I think that would be pretty electric. Sit in the Colosseum. Talk about culture shock.
Yeah. Imagine wearing exactly what you're wearing right now, but sitting in the Coliseum. A Carhartt beanie and a Brave shirt.
I'd be burned at this.
Hey, get your popcorn here.
Then you probably realize, like, oh, this is just a massive distraction. Like, this is like NFL football. Like, this
pretty
is
much.
Yeah.
Bread and circuses.
Right.
Yeah, it's weird, man. If you could go forward in time, where and when would you go?
I got a couple more things I want to mention in the past.
Okay. We'll stick with that.
That is such a
first.
deep. The future is.
Yeah.
I got a few more things I want to rattle off here.
Okay.
J. Christ, got to meet this guy.
I know, man.
Got to meet this guy.
Jesus was the man.
What would you say to him if you walked up? He's outside preaching. Like,
probably be like, "Hey, man, thanks for everything you did."
Yeah. Would you tell him? Like, would you ask him about? Man, I'd probably ask him like, what is like? What's your mission? Like, it'd be cool to hear it from him and be like,
yeah,
man, like maybe like ask him like what he thinks his impact on the future would be.
Yeah.
And like you have no idea, bro. Every time I'm taking a violent dump, I call out your name because for help. He'd be like, what the fuck, bro?
That's crazy. But I mean, had he known that what he was doing,
because I believe he was a real person for sure.
He was a real person. That's like, but at the time, like a lot of people resented him because he was seen as blasphemy, the stuff he was talking about. And, had he known that so much of the world, however many years later would just be worshiping him, and it's crazy. And just, the code of ethics that he set forth to live by. And it's a wild, wild thing, man.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool to catch like an OG Jesus preaching
Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Talk about like a moment in history.
Starstruck, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a funny one I thought of. Columbus.
Oh,
The
geez.
moment the ship arrives to the New World, I'm just standing there. Welcome to India, fellas.
Oh my God.
That'd be a riot, I think.
Just slap him across the face.
Yeah,
Hey,
or-
don't. I was gonna be like, hey, Columbus, don't do everything you're about to do.
Yeah. Or get there a couple months early and like warn all the natives.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't trust me. Be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
But assemble an army and
That's
pummel the boys. And
Pummel
that,
Columbus.
you want to talk about butterfly effect? That would.
Yeah, seriously. It's so interesting talking about, evil historical figures like that, had you gone back in time and killed them, what would be the effect of that? You know what I mean? It's like thinking about, had Hitler succeeded and, Germany took over the world or whatever, like what would have happened,
Yeah.
Because going back in time and killing Hitler is the one that everyone always says. If you can go back in time and change one, like, I'll go kill Hitler. And
that'd be a massive the landscape of Europe. World War II probably wouldn't have happened, I would imagine.
yeah,
Be wild.
it's
man.
interesting. I'd be so curious to see how our world would be different today.
Think about all the innovation that happened during World War
Because
II.
of
the rush to
just because of wars in general,
Right,
like a lot of technological advancement for better and worse. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like maybe the nuclear bomb. We never would have had a need to invent that.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's no, threat of nuclear war. Who knows, man?
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Economies that benefited and
Yeah, it's crazy.
from-
It's crazy, man.
yeah, it's wild, man. Dude, I found this when I was like kind of thinking about where I'd go back, and this I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but have you heard about the dancing plague?
I don't think
in
so.
like like present day France, I think, but it was like part of the Holy Roman Empire.
No.
July 1518. Let me read this because this is kind of crazy. I don't know if a lot of people know about this.
Okay.
This is wild. Hundreds of people in Strasbourg suddenly began dancing uncontrollably for days. Some even reportedly dancing to their deaths. The phenomenon, which lasted for weeks, has baffled historians for centuries. Some believe it was mass hysteria, while others speculate it could have been caused by ergot poisoning, a hallucinogenic mold that grows on damp rye. Either way, it remains one of the most bizarre medical mysteries in history. People, like, literally, it started with this one woman, like, dancing, like, in the street. Like, apparently ergot, like, I think that's how you pronounce it, can cause, like, convulsions and, like, hallucinations. This is, like, the Salem witchcraft trials.
Sure.
Like, that was kind of what was going on.
Yeah.
Or at least people think. I think it'd be wild just to pull up and see a bunch of people, like, dancing to their deaths.
And you're like,
it's-
wow.
What's going on?
Oh, they're so brave for dancing in public like that. That's crazy. I did not
That's
know that,
so
man.
wild, man.
What a
It's
weird
such a-
thing
yeah.
that happened.
It's funny. I think the Salem witchcraft trials would be interesting too. Like, because that happened like in my hometown. Like,
That's
present
right.
day, like my present day hometown. That's where that happened. So I think I could whack two birds with one stone, kind of go check out where I grew up, but in such a weird ass.
Wow, this field looks really good. My house will be that.
right. Interesting. Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. And this is one of the biggest one. Is my last one here about where would I go? And this is kind of breaking the laws of physics. But if I could just be like an omnipotent spirit, kind of like just outside of the laws of physics or whatever, I would love to see the birth of the universe.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I understand the concept of the Big Bang, but where did like that matter? Where did that matter come from? You keep asking it's like cutting the seconds in half.
Right.
It's like, okay, like I understand that concept, but like, where did that energy that made the matter come from? Like,
Right.
what is?
If you keep going back and you're like, where did that come from?
Right.
Well, where did that come
right.
from?
And
How did that start?
almost makes you. It's like, dude, is there a god or an architect or it's like what?
Yeah, I think there is.
What is beyond all this? Like,
Yeah. When you just think about existence and consciousness in general, you're like, there's got to be someone
like a higher
calling the shots
power,
here.
yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about, man. There's a theory. I might, hopefully I get this right. I haven't researched it in a while, but there's a theory that essentially the universe exists on a membrane, right? So if I held up like a piece of paper, that could be a membrane, and there's a parallel membrane, and over time, because the universe is expanding right now, and so they're moving apart, and eventually they start to contract, and then the universe, it gets closer together, and the membranes touch, and the universe is condensed into a single point, and then when they start to expand again, that's the Big Bang, and so all the matter just bursts out from one spot.
Right,
but like I don't know if superposition is possible. The idea of two things being in the same place at the same time, I could see how that could work, but like it's just such a wild concept. There's so many really cool and interesting theories about the birth of the universe, man, and the Big Bang, and just to if you could have box seats to that, that's a great answer. I would love that, man.
Yeah,
think about the colors. We are stardust, man. I mean, we are made of the matter that came from the Big Bang.
Yeah.
It's like we are just as much of a part of this universe as the fucking UI Scooty is.
Right.
Shout out UI Scooty. Best star. That's just bizarre to think about.
Yeah. When it's like, but where did that matter come? It's just
came from IKEA, bro.
Yeah. Came from IKEA. Yeah. All right, man. Yeah, that's some spots I would definitely be fun to check out. But
I like that. Those are some good answers.
Yeah.
Want to talk about the future?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
If you could go one place in the future, where are you going?
I don't know if I'd go if I had the option.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's harder than, because here's the thing, like if you saw it, so you went 30 years ahead, you're like, I'm going to see where I'm at. And then you see where you're at. Could you come back and be satisfied living your life knowing that's inevitable?
Well, that's like another paradox.
It is another paradox.
If you saw where you were at, you could change it, but then you wouldn't have been there.
Right. Like now the actions that you take are just, you're fulfilling now you're there.
Right. It's like, what if like you saw where you were at and you came back, like, I got to try to change that. But it's like you trying to change it that leads you there.
Right,
so time was thinking 15 steps ahead there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I would go to, well, here's something to consider too. If you go back in time or forward in time, everyone is gone. Assuming you go, a good length of time. I would go to the point in time where we see the last generation on Earth and the first generation on another planet.
Whoa.
Like where I would want to see the point in history where we leave Earth.
That'd be really cool.
And like, what was the decision making behind that? How did we find it? All that stuff. Like, I would love to see
sick.
that.
I like that answer a lot. Yeah.
And it got me thinking about if I could travel anywhere in time and not return. Right. So with this idea of time travel, we're always talking about this as if we can come back.
Right.
But if you could go and you weren't allowed to return, I think that is the point I would still go to. Being like a pioneer of the new world.
That'd be fucking sick, man. I love that answer.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I wonder what Earth would look like. Is it inhabitable now because of us? Yeah.
Who knows, man? The thing is, like, Earth will survive. It's just a matter of if it's inhabitable for us.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's weird to think about, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. What do you think there's any inventions right now that'll be obsolete in the future?
A lot of them.
Like what?
I think about 100 years from now. Say you go 100 years from now. It's 21, 25.
Yeah.
I think everything will be different.
Sure.
Like we might not even have phones. Like,
it might just be in your brain.
Yeah. Like social taboos. Think about how those would change.
Yeah.
Music.
Boop, beep, boop. Human music. I like
that. Like technology, man. Like what if the Earth is inhabitable, but like the tech is like we don't even need to breathe anymore.
Yeah, like our
people,
parts of our body become obsolete. You can just transfer your consciousness to a robot.
Right. That's like the lifespan. Like would we even be inhabiting these bodies? And then the whole that would be a massive, and I imagine we'll get there someday, this massive debate of is this ethical?
Sure.
Right? You know what I mean? Is it ethical to Like, are women even giving birth anymore, or is this just
Right.
lab? Like, and are we? If everyone it was immortal, kind of, and you just transferred your consciousness, like,
Mhm.
is there even new people?
I don't know,
You
man. I
know?
mean, at that point, is the human race extinct, and we've morphed into a different race? That's crazy.
Imagine a war between like a civil war between like
The
the human
humans and the
humans. It's
robots?
kind of a
Oh.
fire idea. I don't know if that's like been done
Isn't
in a
that
movie.
that's Terminator essentially,
Is
right?
it? I haven't
Or
seen it. I'm
iRobot?
embarrassed to say.
I don't know. Could be wrong.
But,
I think this idea of the fact that we have to charge things, charge your phone, charge your, electric car. I feel like that is just going to not even be a thing. We're going to figure out a way to make, power that kind of recycles on itself, and it just is
that
like
might be 20 years from now.
self-sustaining.
That might
It
be-
could be.
yeah.
I mean, all it takes. This is the thing we've
I think
seen
they
this in
already
history.
I think that technology might already exist. We just don't know about it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But we've seen it throughout history, man. Like one tiny invention can change everything.
Yeah.
And so,
We've seen it in our lifetimes. Like,
yeah,
arguably, like, dude, we talked about like how we live in a weird time, like the internet,
oh my
like,
gosh,
cell phones and shit.
the internet is one of the greatest and just most insane inventions of mankind. Just being able to be interconnected with everyone around the globe is crazy. Like that's insane.
It's nuts, man.
That's
It's
insane,
nuts, bro.
I mean, it kind of begs this like ultimate question that I'm thinking of, like, is it ethical to do any of this? To go back in time and to, fuck with a caveman or this and that? Or like, do you think history should just be left alone? And do you think it's kind of arrogant and self-important to go back and be like, I'm going to be the one to kill this guy? Like, because there's pros and cons to every history alteration. So it's like, I don't know. Is that something you would want to mess with?
Man, I'm kind of a fan of like the non-interference thing. I just think, I mean, like in reality, like if like the butterfly effect, like would I even be alive? Like would this like it would maybe I'd save a ton of lives if I whacked Hitler, but then who knows what the evil would rise up? Like I believe in
Right.
the entropy, the chaotic nature of the universe.
Sure.
Like, and like, I mean, I've always kind of been a lover of fate and crap, and like I probably wouldn't fuck with it. But if I could go back, like I would do some of those things that I would do and like not interfere. I would probably just observe.
It's like if you could do this and then kind of like reverse, you never did it kind of thing.
Well, that would be electric. Then I would do crazy crap probably. But,
Yeah. I would go back to 10 minutes ago and make myself a bowl of soup. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
If you could, here's kind of my final question. If you could have lunch with one historical figure, who would it be? This question is all over the place on personality tests and stuff like that, but it's like,
Do you have an answer in mind? Like, well, I kind of ponder about
mine might be a tie between two people. I would love to have lunch with Jimi Hendrix and Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Probably get some barbecue.
Yeah.
Jesus would love barbecue.
Man, I don't know. I'd probably, man.
It's a tough question.
It is a tough question because, like, I don't, like, what am I going to go? I might have, like, I almost would like to, like, maybe, like, chef up for could I bring, like, a caveman back and, like, sit him down and, like, make a mistake? Like, that'd be,
Sure, why not?
but, like,
man?
we're not even talking.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
To be like, wow, this is, like,
Yeah, like watching this. Oh my God. Can you imagine if you were a caveman and you came to the future and just like all this new shit? You'd be like, what is happening right now?
I mean, that's probably us going 1,000 years from now. Like, we would
Probably more,
you couldn't
man.
even wrap your head around it.
Yeah, you're just in like a shapeless void, and your voice go, "Are you having fun?" And you're like,
I imagine, like, dude, with technology and like, it's like an exponential. Like the change is becoming like
it's
like,
insane. It's happening so fast.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I feel like in history, it's always kind of, evolution of stone tools, fire, and then like
iPhone. Yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, it would be you. Maybe we go like 500,000 years in the future, and it's you and I. We're just sitting and like we're just floating somewhere, and you just look at me and you go, "So this is camping, huh?"
It's always a good hang.
Crazy concepts, man.
Yeah.
Crazy. Like, I'm curious to hear people's thoughts on, you know, the ethics of this and if you would do it. Like, where would you go? When would you go? So, if you have thoughts, please leave them in the comments.
Drop them in the comments. I want to hear what
Yeah.
people got to say.
Yeah.
But with that being said,